So today, guys, we are in the gym. We're in Physique Factory Gym here in Auchterarder, and what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you guys a proper tour of the gym. Now, I have done like a kind of short tour in the past, but this one's going to be a bit more of an in-depth tour. We're going to have a look at some of the kit that we bought and also talk about the plans for the future. So let's get to it. I'll take you guys around. So I was going to begin this video by talking about my favourite piece in the gym, but I couldn't actually decide which one was my favourite piece. So I thought I'd start on my least favourite piece. And again, it's not to say it's a bad machine, this one, but like, it's just, if I had to get rid of one, it's probably going to be this one. Not just because it's blue. It came out of a gym a close friend of mine who works at, and it's blue, so that's why it's blue. I have planned to get it resprayed, but still haven't actually done that yet. But I mean, it's not a bad machine. It's Cybex. Obviously Cybex are generally pretty good with stuff. The way it works, it's obviously a bicep curl, and because the position we're in here, it takes us into a position where our shoulders flex and our biceps flex. So we get the biceps into a fairly short position. And I believe the weight does drop off as we get into that shortened position, where we're going to be weaker for the movement, which makes a bit of sense. But what I don't like about this machine is, well, it's got this, and I can't for the life of me really think of a good reason why it's there. The only caveat to that maybe is like, right, if you've got this thing off, you know, the axis is now up there, so like, you have to have super long arms. Like for me, that feels like I'm pushing in the wrong direction almost, right? And it's not moving the machine kind of efficiently, so like, doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, I'm thinking you want your elbow up there, so having this pad makes sense. Now, one thing I do know about this machine is the seat can move, so the seat can move right out of the way. And I believe that is something to do with disabled actives with getting a wheelchair in there, so maybe it's something to do with that. But yeah, although like, it is a good machine, it's probably my least favourite out of the bunch. So the bicep curl, unfortunately, yeah, if something's going, it's it. Plus, when you look at it, look at the space this thing takes up. For a bicep curl, it's actually quite big, and because we're in a small space here, I'm always thinking about the amount of space something takes up. So for the sake of a bicep curl, if I'm looking for another piece, like something I'd really like is like a T-bar row or something in here, I'd probably get rid of this for the T-bar row. There's a lot of other great bicep exercises you can do with dumbbells and with cables. So do we really need this? Not necessarily, but I know a lot of the members like it, so it's not going anywhere right now. Next up, we have the Life Fitness Pro 1 lateral raise. Now, this machine is my favourite lateral raise machine out there. There's no other machine I would have in place of this, so when I seen it come up, I was like, I have to get this. But it does need a bit of loving. The placard's missing. I've literally just managed to source a new one, so we have a new one on the way. Painting is needing a bit of work, so this is going to be a restoration kind of effort from me. The pads and everything are quite good, which is great. Moves well, everything's fine that way. It's more just the cosmetics that need a bit of work. But this is one of my favourite machines. So for those of you, like a lot of members of the gym haven't ever really seen anything like this before, because I suppose it's not that common. It's in a lot of bodybuilding gyms, but it's maybe not in like your kind of pure gym or things like that, or as far as I know it's not. So this is a side raise machine. It's for training your side delt, so it's like, you know, doing a dumbbell lateral raise, but I would say arguably better, but that obviously depends on who they go and you know, what happens. But for using this one, we're going to go on, we're going to sit on chest first into the pad. Your shoulders are going to want to roughly sit in line with the axis, so we'll see there's like two bits of the machine spins around there. So your shoulders roughly want to be in line with there. Now what you might notice about this is that they're quite narrow. So for someone that's wider, I'm not too bad, I'm actually quite narrow framed, but for someone that's a bit wider, it might make more sense just to go single arm on this one, so they can then line up with the axis a bit better. If you're way off with that, if your like joint isn't aligned with the axis that well, what will happen is the pad will roll up and down your arm a little bit, or you might feel it kind of move up and down the arm a little bit, and then that's when you'll know you're way off and you can adjust your kind of seat height and your positioning to kind of suit. It does, to be honest, it does feel good single arm. I usually do it single arm at the minute, but for me, two arms actually isn't a bad thing either. Oh, actually feels quite heavy. And now we have our plate loaded shoulder press. I was a little bit like, kind of cautious about getting this because anything that's plate loaded, obviously it takes up a bit more space because you've got to get around either side of it. And again, in a small space, is it the ideal thing to have? Probably not, but this is my favourite shoulder press ever. It was hard to kind of miss out on this. It's not an original, it's not the Nautilus Xpload original, but it is a decent copy of it. The only criticism I have of this piece is the seat slopes, which isn't particularly nice, but other than that, this thing is perfect. So we've got two different handles. We've got obviously the wider grip and the more narrow grip. For me and my kind of shoulder mobility, this often feels a bit better. This can get a little bit upper chesty with these handles as well, but again, most people are lacking in that area anyway, so what's the harm in that? But either obviously works. What's cool about this machine compared to other shoulder presses is this one actually gets harder as you get to the top. So we're in a structurally stronger position here at the top, but the weight actually gets harder. And I don't know if you can see it there, but if you see where the weight is, and if you see where the machine's spinning around where the axis is there, the weight's actually getting further away from the axis as I push up. So that's what's making it a bit more efficient. Now, another cool feature of this machine is because this lever that we're pushing on here is quite long compared to the lever that the weight is pushing on down there, it kind of takes some of the momentum out of it. Like other plate loaded machines, if you start blasting them, they really kind of fly up. Whereas this almost takes a bit of that momentum out of it, which is going to be better from a kind of joint health perspective. So, really big fan of this machine. You can pick these up fairly cheap in comparison to the actual Nautilus Xpload ones. So, I would highly recommend to anyone that's thinking about buying a shoulder press, this is one of the ones I would recommend. This machine is our tricep extension machine. Now, if there's one machine that the members come up and look at and wonder what the fuck it is, it's this machine. Probably because we've not got the original sticker on here, which is, I'm good at slagging my machines. The first thing I'm saying about them all is something negative. Another great machine this though. This is another one that I personally really like. I can see why some people wouldn't like it because the handles are fixed, which means if this doesn't work well for the way your elbow joints want to move, then you might not like it very much. But what this machine does, I'm just going to lower the seat for myself here. Pull this pad forward. We're going to push back into this pad. We're going to sit on here. We're going to grab the handles and actually grab them kind of upside down almost. And what we're going to do from here is push back into that back pad and extend our arms forward. So it's starting in kind of the same position that the bicep curl ends in this position here. You've got shoulder flex and you've got the elbow flex. So what's a fully shortened position for the biceps is actually a fully lengthened position for the triceps. So this exercise is going to train the triceps into their fully lengthened position, which is pretty cool. And then as we extend the arm and straighten them out, it's actually getting harder as we push out there. Now, I've not actually done an analysis of this one, I'm just going up feel, but it does feel as if that weight is getting a little harder again. I don't know what's actually going on around here, but if you look at the cable, yeah, it's getting further away. Definitely getting further away. So that is looking as if that should be a little bit harder at the bottom. But again, I haven't done a full breakdown, so don't call me out on that if I'm wrong. But great machine, really big fan of it. Small footprint, so yeah, really like this one. Again, got the blue, obviously came out of the same gym as the bicep curl. Again, I will get sprayed at some point, but you don't want to take too much out of use. When the members are used to using it, you don't want to take too much away at once. So I'll maybe take one away at one point and then the next away at another point and get them sprayed up and looking nice. I'm not actually a big fan of the colours on the machines, because our colours are kind of dark grey, yellow, light grey sort of thing. I would never get that done yellow. I would just get black. Either black, white or grey. I think those colours are the best for machines. Again, in some gyms it does look pretty cool, but I like things original colours a lot of the time. Some of the Life Fitness pieces that you're going to see are still in their original state, and it's that's the way I like them. Moving on now to our Life Fitness pec deck / reverse fly. So I'd actually used this machine before at a gym over in Ballerina that I go to when I'm over there, and I was a huge fan of this. Huge fan of this machine. It's the best pec deck that I've used to date, sort of thing. I can't think of any that I've used and I thought, oh, that one feels a bit better. This is the top dog that I've used so far. There may be better ones out there, who knows. And there's a good point about buying equipment. If you're starting your own gym or home gym or whatever, you're buying equipment, go try it first, because buying stuff that you haven't tried, you're depending on luck. I think there's maybe two things I bought in here that I hadn't tried before. One of them I am a bit kind of disappointed with. It might be the bicep curl, but if you've not tried it, then you have no idea what it's going to be like. And if you're buying all your kit from one company, there's no one company does every piece well. Even Cybex, even Nautilus, they have the pieces that are shit. So don't just buy it all from one company. Pick and choose your machines and pick them individually. Pick the best for each and every kind of machine that you want to have. Again, I've not got it perfect yet, but I am working on that. There's quite a few pieces I would love to add to this gym. So the pec deck, really nice, as I say. We've got adjustment in terms of starting positions, in terms of the seat, in terms of where the handles start, but we're getting that little bit of drop off as we get into that fully short position as well, so it feels really nice. Like any pec deck, it does want to fly back, so you've got to control it well, but yeah, it moves really well. And then obviously we can turn it into the reverse fly as well, so we just pull back in, and that can set up our reverse fly setting too. So yeah, works really well from this as well. That was actually quite heavy, so I have to stop talking. So next up we've got the Cybex VR2 chest press. Again, a personal favourite. I've used this quite a lot. They had it at the gym that I used to train at before I opened this gym. So I knew a lot about this piece. Got it fairly cheap as well. Like I don't think they go for too much. I think they're usually about kind of 500 quid at the minute. This one's in great condition. Maybe a lot of the ones that are for about 500 quid are usually pretty shitty condition. But this came out of the gym again that I'd been to, and you know I knew they kept their kit well. So yeah, great machine. There's a lot to this one. One thing I'll say is a lot of the members that maybe aren't like advanced trainees probably don't know how to use some of this. And again, even some of what you call advanced trainees, you know, wouldn't know how to actually use this stuff. So we've got adjustment in terms of the width of the handles. This little lever up here is adjusting the width of the handles. We've got adjustment in the seat, which is fairly obvious. But we've also got adjustment in terms of your starting position. So like, not many people are going to be able to start back there, but like in terms of how much shoulder extension you've got, like you can change the starting position on this, which is pretty cool, especially when you're coaching clients and things like that may have like movement restrictions in terms of that. So like with this, we've got two options as well. Once we start pressing, we can either just press out and it kind of almost like diverges, so it kind of pushes out the way, or we can push forward and in as well, which is going to make the movement a lot harder because we're getting the chest into a more short position. But yeah, really nice movement. This you get a wicked kind of burn on this as well, especially when you've got more load than 30 pounds on. But a great piece for training chest on for sure. So this one's the Hoist Ab and Adductor. So with machines that do two things, generally speaking, in my experience, machines that do two things are usually either bad at one of them or bad at both of them. I wouldn't say this is bad at either, but I wouldn't say it's great at either. What I would say is, like, if I had the space, I would probably have an individual machine as an adductor and an individual machine as an adductor, but because of the space, this is probably the best of a bad bunch. I won't lie, I wanted a Cybex Eagle. I think that's probably still the best one I've used yet, just because you can recline the seat all the way back in that one. This one's probably a close second for a dual machine, but it certainly does the job. We can get the seat back a little bit further than usual. What I find with a lot of these, especially in like kind of pure gym, like things like that, the seats are like 90 degrees, and in that like 90-degree hip flexion, you might actually only be able to get like a certain amount of, like, say, abduction of the hip, which then changes either your end point or your starting position on this. Whereas when your hips open up more, sometimes you can get a bit more range out of that. And again, that's going to be specific to the individual, but it's good to have that option to be able to recline the seat back. That's what I would say. Another good thing about this is, like, with adductors in particular, so this is set up for abduction, but you just flip it around and you can turn it into an adductor. With adductors in particular, a lot of the time people are having to put gym pins in it, or like they're maxing it out for reps. This thing's got a 198 kilo stack, so you're probably not going to max this one out fairly quick because it is a heavy stack that's on it. Something you'll notice as well is I've got these yoga blocks here, just because the starting position for abduction, you kind of feel like you're losing a bit of range of motion, so we actually just put them in there and it just increases your range of motion a little bit. Okay, so that's what they're there for. But yeah, maybe not my favourite machine in the gym either, but it's a good one for, in terms of the space that we've got, we're getting two things in one, and it does a decent job. So in terms of cable stacks, I went for a free motion dual pulley. Probably quite a poor decision in a small space. I mean, these things are great, they're amazing, I really like this piece, but like, it's massive, it's huge. So if you're to open them out, so we've got like horizontal like movement and adjustment for the machine, and vertical movement and adjustment. So like if we open that up as far as it goes, which we can't even do because I've put it so close to the wall, like it's 3 meters, the wingspan of it is 3 meters, so it's quite a big, wide machine. So it's maybe not ideal for the space we've got. And like in reflection, maybe like a Cybex, which got Bravo, would have been a better idea in here. But it is what it is, and it's up here now. Other than that though, like there's such a wide variety of like angles you can create on this thing. It really is incredible for using like that. So the only downside of it is the size and how heavy it is as well, by the way. If you've ever got to shift one of these, This is a heavy duty piece of kit, wow. But it's a 4-to-1 pulley, which again has its benefits. You get 4-to-1s, 2-to-1s, you get whatever. But like with a 4-to-1, if I yank on that, there's not really much momentum in that, because the 4-to-1 almost takes the momentum out of it. And if you look at the weight stack, I don't know how well you can see it, but it's only moving a quarter of the distance that I'm moving here. So like in terms of if you want to do kind of fast or more explosive stuff, it's going to be safer to do it on this than it would to be on a 2-to-1 pulley or a 1-to-1 pulley, or better for your joints, what we say. But yeah, really big fan of this piece. You can set up some unique things that you can't set up on a normal dual pulley. It is just a bit big. That's the only thing, if you're thinking about getting one, it's a big piece, and that's something to consider. For a lat pull down, I went for the Life Fitness Pro 1 again. To be honest, with a lat pull down, all you've got to make sure is you've got a heavy enough stack. You've got obviously a good enough, strong enough cable, a heavy kind of duty design, and we've got the knee pad for support as well. And again, a lat pull down, this is an example of, we're talking about 4-to-1 pulleys, this is a 1-to-1 pulley. It's one cable that goes up and one cable that comes down. And if I was to yank on that, which I'll show you an example, like, it's very easy to get momentum in that cable, as you've just seen. So two different types of cables that we would use for two different types of movements. And so you would have to have a bit more control in this, whereas when you're using the free motion, you don't really need to have that same kind of level of control of the weight, if that makes sense, because essentially you're not getting that same momentum. What happened there when I yanked that is it'd be like really heavy one minute and really light the next sort of thing, so it's kind of all over the place. But yeah, in terms of lat pull down, there's not too much I need to say. 140 kilo stack on this thing. I'm yet to see anyone do the full stack for pull downs. No doubt there will be someone at some point, but this is a heavy stack, and that's probably the main thing you need for a pull down. So we've got the Life Fitness Pro 1 seated row as well. We've got quite a few bits of Life Fitness Pro 1 stuff. It's really underrated kit in my opinion, a lot of it. Again, not all of it, but a lot of it. This machine, due to the way it kind of arcs, right, you'll see that it kind of, to begin with, it kind of comes up, and then it starts to eventually come down. Because of the arc, it might actually be a nicer kind of more upper back movement, but you can set it up in a way that it becomes more of a lateral thing. So the way I kind of muck about with this to make it more of a lat movement is I'll just bring the chest pad all the way back, and we can change whereabouts in that kind of arc that we're starting. So if we're starting at the top then coming down, we can make it a bit more latty, and obviously we're using these kind of more narrow grip handles here as well. But yeah, another great piece. This one actually, like a lot of rows don't do this, a lot of rows are heavier where we're weaker, which is going to be here, and then they're lighter where we're going to be stronger, which is here. But this one actually goes from being heavy here, and it drops off by about 32%. I have done my analysis on this one into the shorter position. So there's not a lot of like there's maybe more so nowadays, but like a lot of rowing movements, a lot of pulling movements are actually heavier where we're weaker and lighter where we're stronger, which makes no sense. Whereas this one is going to be lighter where we're yeah, I'm getting mixed up now. It's going to be heavier where we're stronger and lighter where we're weaker. So that's a really cool feature of this machine. Potential downside in this one, the only potential downside is that like these handles, and again I don't know how well you can see it from this angle, but there's a handle here and a handle here. You can grab on top obviously as well. There could do being an in-between one for people who are like, you know, so for me again I'm quite narrow built, so these narrow handles are fine for me. But for someone who's one that has a shoulder width grip that's slightly wider than me, there's no real option for that. So I have got a fix for that. So the fix for that is these flex grips. So they just slot on here, and then we can just create a neutral grip from there for the person that's maybe a little bit wider than me, but not as wide as needing the wide handles. So that's quite a cool option, but obviously that doesn't come with the machine. So the only potential downside of it is that, but this is a great roll. Again, it is one of my top 5 favourite pieces in here. Again, I couldn't just put it down to one, but this is certainly up there. Next up, we've got our Pendulum Squat. This machine, obviously, if you've not used it before, you're probably looking at it and thinking, what the fuck is this? It's a squat machine. So I'll show you how to use it if you've not used this before. We're just going to get underneath here and put our feet on the platform, push up, unhook the machine, and then we're just setting down into a squatting motion. And what you'll probably find is if you're not a great squatter, you might find you get a bit more range of motion on this than you do compared to like an actual squat. So for a lot of people, this kind of arc is quite a smooth kind of movement, and they can get quite deep into it. Now, another thing you find about this is because the weight is here and the axis that the machine's moving around all the way back here, the weight's got a lot of advantage over you. So like, putting like a plate on this, if you've never used it before, might actually be quite heavy. So it's quite a humbling machine, this one, but it is really cool. And we've got some adjustment in terms of the foot plate. So the foot plate, you can go back here, and we change the angle of the foot plate. And we've also got like counterweights at the other end, so we can start to kind of offset the weight a little bit. And because of the way the counterweight works, it kicks in a bit more as we get to the bottom of the movement, so we can then like kind of offload the bottom a little bit, which would generally be the harder bit of the movement, and that might take a bit of the kind of joint forces out in terms of the knee as well. Like it might just make it a bit easier on your knees, because you will likely achieve a lot of knee flexion on this exercise, so the counterweight can be quite useful for that. But a lot of people might not understand how to use that, so I just kind of put enough weight on there to just about offset the weight of all this, because this weighs like 40 kilos itself, like all this metal work here. So I put enough on there just to kind of almost offset that, not completely offset it, but almost offset that, so that, like, you know, if there is someone who hasn't done this before and they're not well trained and they're not used to doing this sort of thing and they're maybe quite weak, well, if those counterweights weren't on at all, they'd probably struggle to even move this. So that's why there's already a little bit of counterweight on there. If you ever come into the gym, that's why it's already on there for those sorts of people, okay? Next up we have our Precor Icarian 45-degree leg press. This is probably my favourite 45-degree leg press I've ever used, and I'm not a big fan of leg press, I'm not going to lie. So the fact that I say that means it's obviously pretty damn good. Now, it's not got the side panels with the name on it, which really upsets me. So we are actually in the process of getting it made, but it is an official Precor one. We can see some of the pieces at the bottom there that it's actually got Precor branding on it, because there are a lot of copies out there of this machine, and to be honest, like, is a leg press that hard to copy? Probably not, but you can just feel the quality with these actual like original pieces. Now what I like about this one is the seat angle. Starting off with, like, a lot of leg presses, the seat like starts you off in a position where you're already like in a 90-degree hip flexion, whereas this one opens up that little bit more. So for someone like me who maybe hasn't got a massive range of hip flexion, this is really nice. But the other thing as well is we've got this foot plate here, which is kind of angled in a way that it almost starts you in a bit of what's called dorsiflexion, right? Plantar flexion, which then allows you to get into a larger degree of dorsiflexion throughout the movement. So, like, you know, to put that in normal people terms, you know when you're doing a leg press and like your heels start to lift off a little bit, that you should be able to go deeper before that happens in this leg press because of the design of the foot plate. So it's been very well designed. On the flip side of that, because of the way it's been designed, there is a lot more like kind of friction. So you push into the, like if this was made of ice, your foot would want to be sliding up it. So that makes it even harder. So again, it's quite a humbling leg press compared to like maybe like a hammer strength where you could put like, I could maybe put like 500 kilos on a hammer strength. I would never get 500 kilos on this. And that doesn't mean one's good and one's bad, it's just like facts about those machines, if that makes sense. So this one, as I say, is a little bit more humbling from that perspective, but you're just getting that forces from a different place, you're getting it from the friction, if that makes sense. And there will still obviously be a bit of friction on a normal hammer strength one too, but it's just a bit more on this too. So yeah, great piece, and probably one of my favourite leg presses. And now we move on to our leg extension, basically a staple in any gym. Believe it or not, there's a gym fairly close by that has quite a lot of kit and obviously a bit of money to spend, but they don't have a leg extension. I think that's just the weirdest thing ever. It's like, for this movement, like training the quad in a short position, like there's no other good way of doing it. So this is the best way of doing it. So I would say this is something that is a need to have. I mean, there's probably quite a few things you could say that for, but like, yeah, this is something I would expect at any gym. This is the Life Fitness Pro 1, again, same range as before. These are quite, like, I don't want to say they're readily available, but there seems to be a lot of them pop up on like Marketplace or equipment, what you call people who like deal in equipment and that. But like, so they are like, again, you can get them at a relatively good price, and it's a good leg extension for the price you can get it at. In terms of how the weight drops off, it drops off by about 20% if memory serves me right, which you might argue is not quite enough, because as we get up to that top position, you're going to get a little bit weaker at the top, and I would say my strength probably drops off a bit more than 20%. I would say that like, if I'm going to fail somewhere on this, it's going to be closer to the top. So like, yeah, I feel like it could drop off a little bit more, but I mean, other than that, it's a good all-round leg extension. Stacks maybe a little bit light. I'm getting to the stage I can do the full stack for reps quite easily. I don't want to say easily, but you know, like I can do it for sets. So like, I've been using the gym pin. So the gym pin's obviously a great addition. This is like a nice heavy duty frame. It will take the gym pin, but yeah, maybe it's just a little bit on the light side from that perspective as well. Could do with a little bit more drop off. But no, I do really like this machine. I've definitely used worse leg extensions. Sorry. Moving on to our line leg curl, our Nautilus Nitro line leg curl. The Nautilus Nitro stuff is very hot right now, and the price that this kind of stuff's going for right now, it is quite expensive. So you've kind of really got to be into it to want to buy it at the minute. Again, you might pick up some bargains, you might find people that don't know what they've kind of got on their hands with this kind of stuff. But it's generally speaking pretty good stuff. As I said earlier, there's no manufacturer that makes all great machines. Like not every machine's an absolute banger from them, but this definitely is a good machine. So like in terms of this position, like we're going to be a lot weaker in the shortened position when you get into that shortened range in this exercise, and it drops off nicely. Again, I would say this one's by about like kind of 20-30%. I can't exactly remember, I didn't measure this one day, but it feels like enough. You know when you do a leg curl and you're lying on your front there and you pull your leg back, get into that kind of like shortened position, but like it gets harder and you can't get into a fully shortened position. Well, this feels like it just drops off nicely as you get into that, and it feels like you can keep going and going and going. So it means that it's a kind of steady resistance relevant to where your strength's at throughout the movement. So really big fan of this one. Yeah, probably one of my favourite pieces in here as well. Comes in our top 5 favourite pieces as well. Okay, so that's it. We've been around all the machines in the gym. Obviously, we've got dumbbells, we've got barbells, we've got a bench press, we've got a couple of racks and things like that. But like, we wanted to come on here today and talk about the machines more than anything. Like, obviously, dumbbells and barbells and racks and things like that are kind of standard in any gym. The machines generally tend to be, they tend to differ a lot between gym to gym. So I just wanted to talk about them, and like if you're someone who's thinking about coming to join the gym, or if you're thinking about opening your own gym or something like that, just to give you some idea of some of the things that you maybe want to think about when you're buying machines. You know, how do they feel? Do you like them? What kind of floor space do they take up? You know, what condition are they in? I've definitely bought a couple of those Life Fitness pieces, the ones that were black. Like some guy like spray painted them and they're a mess. So like something I'm going to have to do at some point is give them a good rub down and get them back to as close to original as possible, and kind of give them a renovation. So there's a few things obviously to think about there if you are buying kit. It's quite the kit buying world out there on like Facebook and things like that. There are a few charlatans. There are a few charlatans out there that you definitely need to look out for. People who will basically take your money and take the absolute piss out of you. So you do need to kind of look out for them. But there is also a lot of good people as well. So it's finding which ones are which. Again, I've done a lot of due diligence when I'm buying kit. So like, you know, like sort of, I've actually got another machine that's not in the gym right now, a Nautilus Nitro calf raise machine, and I bought that off someone, and again, they just kind of done the due diligence. Okay, this is the name of the gym, this is the name of the guy, let's look him up on Company's House, let's see if that's actually the guy that owns the gym, let's look him up on Instagram, let's do a bit of research into the background of him. Do I know anyone down there that might know him? Yeah, so I'll ask them questions. And there's also like groups out there as well, independent gym owners and things like that, that are really useful for that sort of thing too. So yeah, there's certainly a lot to think about if you're doing this sort of thing yourself, but hopefully that was a bit insightful for you, or hopefully it's just entertainment for you. And if you've got any questions about any of the kit or any of the gym at all, don't be afraid to drop a comment or drop me a message.